This is the water cycle, right? Now look at this as the water cycle we're in, and this is the water cycle around us, right? One. Now we in 7 water cycles. Saturn is considered the most broadest one. So when they draw or put a satellite up there or draw a planet, that's a Mason's allegory on when they started to take over on the corporation jobs and started to track that water cycle. So we start to go on their calendar base, which is why y'all get 2,000 years Galileo calendars, Gregorian calendars, the Japanese calendar, the Indian calendar. You just getting shadow governments coming to different geographical locations, basing things on this right here. Now you see it's water cycles. Now we in this water cycle, and then this is the water cycle that's around us. Now I'm about to draw what happens when we experience an event on the east. So you can know the planets ain't moving to the right, we're rotating to the left. So for the most part, as a water cycle, when we're rotating to the left, right, the water cycle around us is a water that have its own density level. This is how we got river falls and seas. When they fuse and produce or cause that pressure, it produces that event, like they're trying to do on a micro scale when they crash into particles together in the hydro collider thingy. They're trying to mimic the as above, so below in all kind of ways. That's how we're creating science, electricity, sparks of light. So when these two water currents on a mass scale make an event, it produce what we're calling the sun. But this is what I'm calling stars. I'm calling the water cycle stars. What I'm calling stars is the water cycles. All the things that make the event. That's what I'm calling the stars, the conscious levels. So a star is a bigger name for a body of water. You got stars, oceans, rivers, lily ponds, seas. You know what I'm saying? I know seas is bigger than a lily pond, but same way how they size up atmospheres, atoms, is the same thing. Waves. They always sizing up waves. Now look, when that event happened, it produced that light that have no shape. Now that light that gets produced is a lighter transitional version of what the two things that just crashed together, water. So we're seeing a lighter, keyword, mass, light as in weight. You're seeing a lighter transition of it. You could practice little scientific methods on the ground by doing that, right? Put some water on a pot. Put some water in a pot. Turn the stove on. You're going to see water take a different transition. And when water become lighter, you see a different transition of it. Steam, wind, air, cloud. And when a group of those masses come together, it could create a micro sun, a cloud heavy enough to rain R-E-I-G-N on its air, a throne, masculine, R-A-R-E. You see what I'm saying? So here's the thing. Understand these words, how they be using it in the Shemitic times. Then for the most part, boom, once that light is produced, it casts a reflection on the opposite side. Now, you're going to see the many phases of that reflection that we're calling the moon when we're rotating to the left. That's why it's always going to be a new moon, solar eclipse, the moon and the sun being in the same sign. A full moon, lunar eclipse, and the sun and the moon being in opposite signs, 180-degree angle. And there's no such thing in history as it not being that. So you have to know that those ain't things moving on its own. Like the water cycles, those lights are events happening based upon something that we're doing. And I'm just helping y'all understand what we're doing. What we're doing is the 5 C's that come together as a water cycle that's rotating to the left. That's us. And that's science right there, real science. Knowing that all the water is rotating to the left, starting from the eastern continents, rotating to Antarctica. See what I'm saying? So that'll be east to west, left to right. Right to left, east to west. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, we're all the 5 C's, the main C's come together based on the density level. They're still all together. That's our water, and it's just not water. It's the whole transition of water, aka our whole bubble atmosphere. Thank you so much for the donation, Raphael. So when our atmosphere crash into the atmosphere next to us, it produced that event that we see, that we start to call the east, because we're making up, down, left, right, and directional compasses and shit like that. So based upon us creating the starting point, when we're rotating to the left, we call it east. And the more we rotate to the left, that event appear to be going to the right to anybody in their geographical location. But that's why it's not always daytime to a person on their geographical location, because it's based on us rotating to the left, which you're facing, not these things moving along by themselves. We should have been had a day in life that it was daytime all day for everybody in the world. And then one time it was nighttime for a few days for everybody in the world. That's flunked out ass, dumbass, religious concept, NASA, shape of the earth arguments. Y'all need to stop, get out of that dumbass shit. And let God show y'all what the fuck is going on. So you could draw it like me, and you ain't got to get on Google or nothing. God give you the spirit that you could be up here drawing it out of your holy testimony Bible that we all supposed to do. Now, we started making hypotheticals of what's possible for the events to happen in the other cycles, based on understanding the events we can see in our cycle. You see what I'm saying? So we start making hypotheticals on when certain other events can happen. And then that's when we made our first ruler, Venus, the one that rises 2 hours before, where we hypothetically make that concept. But for the most part, we didn't necessarily see it. So after like the year 1600s, we start throwing satellites to track that water cycle and call it these individuals who came up with the idea to do that. So these planets and satellites be named after these masons and shit who come up with the idea to know how to track the water cycle for us to be able to get on the internet to know where the planet's at and to know when it's a retrograde. Well, a retrograde ain't nothing but when on a micro scale, if you live in a beach like a sea creature, when one water density level becomes more heavy than the other one based upon the periodic level, you get river falls. So a creature that lived at the bottom of the sea will be able to look up and see that as light spectrums and shit. So for the most part, when you see that event and things of that nature, you can also experience retrogrades and shit like that, because one water flood within the ocean that have a certain density level start to move slower once it reach an area within their groups of cycles and bubbles that's heavier. So it'll be experienced as a micro version of the concept of what we're calling retrograde. And this is the true esoteric astrology, where you don't need NASA. You know what I'm saying? I went outside and learned that for myself. God taught me that. And I bet you, Neil deGrasse, nobody will ever be able to make me not stand corrected. Period. God taught me that. And now there's a such thing as something being first up under the sun. Y'all ain't never heard that on Google or whatever like that yet, but that's the real shit. You could think it ain't. Watch all science start to teach that though. Watch. So now you know there is a such thing as something new up under the sun. Uriel and the Soul Group. Damn, my bad. I keep talking.